It's been 5 years since Lucas and I broke up. The last time we broke up, we agreed to drink a potion together that would make us forget the one we loved the most. That way, he would soon forget me and fall in love with someone else. Until one day at a party, Lucas felt that I had long since forgotten him. He was joking with everyone at the table, laughing at how silly his ex-girlfriend was. Only she was silly enough to believe that the one I loved the most was her. And I wasn't even drunk. I didn't want to forget Emily. I listened quietly in the corner. In fact, after taking the drug, it wasn't him that I forgot. My ex-girlfriend was also the daughter of a well-known family in New York, and she had been after me for years. Although she appeared arrogant on the surface, she had to bow her head in front of me. Lucas tilted his head and drank a glass of wine, and then triumphantly talked about his ex-girlfriend at the table. When he talked about her, he deliberately nodded towards me. The meaning was obvious. He deliberately mentioned that his ex-girlfriend's family background was similar to Sophia's. Suddenly, the people at the table looked at me with more teasing and meaningful glances, with ambiguous smiles on their faces, and couldn't help but ask Lucas how his ex-girlfriend performed in bed. Lucas spoke confidently, sometimes flashing a provocative smile at me. He seemed to think that I had already forgotten the past, but in fact, I was the ex-girlfriend he was talking about. I reluctantly smiled along with everyone else, and my hand was pressed under the table, feeling the pain to suppress my urge. I listened quietly to what he had to say about me. When the conversation was getting heated, Lucas suddenly slammed his glass on the ground, and his eyes on me became gloomy and full of resentment. If it weren't for revenge against Emily, even if she desperately pursued me and offered me her family business, I would never have agreed to her. He said that Emily's mother used to work as a nanny in my family. But because I felt that the gap between her and my status was too big, I didn't even let her into my house, and I even physically drove her out. Although Lucas still put his ex-girlfriend's name before mine, I could tell from his angry eyes that he was actually referring to me. I held onto my skirt with one hand while pouring myself a drink with the other. I was so angry that my hands were shaking, and I spilled most of the wine on the table. I could hear Lucas chatting with the person next to him about how he had played me for a fool and taken revenge for the ideal partner in his heart. After dinner, everyone gathered around Lucas in the middle and walked out. From a distance, I heard Lucas greet them loudly on purpose. The effect of this medicine that makes you forget the past only lasts for a month, and that happens to be the time of the ex-girlfriend's birthday party. I really want to see her expression when she regains her memory and sees me and Emily holding hands at her birthday party. Besides, I have a special birthday gift for her. I can't wait to see how surprised she will be. My hand next to me slowly clenched into a fist. I heard the crowd discussing how to stir up some excitement at my birthday party in a month. Just then, someone deliberately bumped into my shoulder. Why isn't Sophia saying anything? Don't you want to teach Lucas's ex-girlfriend a lesson? Make her apologize in front of Emily and wipe Lucas's shoes clean, so she understands the consequences of bullying Emily. Everyone's attention instantly focused on me, their eyes betraying hidden smiles. Before I could say anything, a car slowly pulled up. Emily, wearing a long white dress, slowly walked over to Lucas and gently smoothed out the creases in his suit. They waved their joined hands in front of me, as if to announce that they were together. Some of the people around them congratulated them, while others laughed loudly on purpose. Lucas, do you think Sophia looks a bit like your new girlfriend? I tried to hide my discomfort, but kept a polite smile on my face. I know Emily, her mother used to be a nanny in my family, right? As soon as I said this, the expressions of the people around me changed immediately, and they started to speak up for me. They said I would definitely not bully little girls like Lucas's ex-girlfriend. I pretended not to notice their nervousness and still said congratulations to Lucas and Emily. A second before I entered my own home, I turned around and shouted to everyone with a smile, "Remember to come to my birthday party next month." I also wanted to know what everyone's faces would look like when they found out that it wasn't Lucas that I had forgotten after drinking the love potion. Anyway, I need to find where Lucas hid the big present he gave me. Lucas and Emily couldn't wait to post several sweet updates to their friends, in case anyone missed the news that they were together. Many of their mutual friends congratulated them on finally getting together. I lay on my comfortable mattress and slowly closed my eyes. Even if the person I forgot after drinking the potion wasn't Lucas, at least I had some good memories with him. A few years ago, after I had broken up with my boyfriend and fled home, Lucas came to comfort me. He picked me up from my low point and took me to a go-karting track. He told me that all my worries could be released through a crazy race. The red and green cars raced around the complicated and dangerous track, chasing each other, and finally came to a stop almost simultaneously at the edge of a cliff. Lucas rushed in front of my car, ripped off my helmet in one go, and then kissed me fiercely, fueled by that rush of adrenaline. Later, we went skydiving again. In the sky 100 meters above the ground, we held each other tightly, and I shouted that I wanted to do it again. That day, I had a date with Lucas for the 7th time to race cars, and we conquered another crater. 2 cars stopped behind us. I took his face in my hands and said seriously, "I will always love you." He said he would too. In fact, at that time, we both had our own secrets. I curled up in bed, and a tear rolled down the corner of my eye and fell on the pillow. The next day, I went back to the racing circuit. As soon as I entered, I saw a figure standing next to the green racing car, all in white. Lucas saw that I was here and, without knowing what he was thinking, suddenly walked over to my car with Emily. "Sophia, I know you're a great racer. Can you take care of Emily for a while? She doesn't quite trust me." I frowned, but before I could say anything, Emily opened my car door and got in. As soon as the car started, Emily suddenly turned her head and looked at me. "Are you quite close to Lucas? Is his driving skill about the same as yours? Have you raced together before?" Hearing these questions, I felt a bit annoyed, but Emily didn't seem to notice my silence at all. "Sophia, do you know Lucas's ex-girlfriend? Lucas told me that he didn't expect the daughter of a rich family to have more skills in bed than he thought." I frowned. Just then, I focused on the accelerator and overtook Lucas. I just glanced behind me, and Emily suddenly turned around and grabbed the steering wheel. Although I quickly pushed her hand away, we crashed into the guardrail hard because the car was going too fast. The sound of the car suddenly attracted Lucas's attention, and he quickly ran to the passenger seat and held Emily out of the way. Lucas carefully observed the injuries on her body, and finally saw her limping, unable to stand steadily, and crying out that her feet hurt. "Sophia, if you don't want to take Emily, just tell me directly. There's no need to joke with her safety." I had just been rescued by the staff, and my right hand had been broken in the fall. I looked up and heard Lucas scolding me loudly. Emily was huddled in his arms, like a fragile duckweed, crying softly. Lucas glanced at my injured arm and then looked at the damage to the driver's seat, which was more serious than the passenger's. His lips moved as he was about to ask if he should take me to the hospital on the way, when Emily suddenly burst into loud sobs. She said, "Lucas, I'm in pain. Is my foot broken?" Lucas saw that I didn't react at all, so he just picked her up and muttered, "Why didn't I see you get hurt before when we raced? Would I care if you pretended to be in pain?" In the end, my parents heard that I had been injured racing and hurried over to take me to the hospital. As they passed by the ward, they saw Lucas by Emily's bedside, gently encouraging her to drink some water. My mom's temper was about to flare up, so she shoved her bag at my dad and was about to rush in and demand an explanation. I quickly pulled her back. "Mom and Dad, I've broken up with Lucas. I'll explain everything to the family elders on my birthday." My mom was watching the doctor treat my wound when she suddenly said that my brother could come back from abroad on my birthday. I looked at her a little puzzled. Since when did I have a brother? My mom tapped my forehead with her finger and said, "Little one, your brother was orphaned by your father's war comrades. You've lived together for many years, and he's taken care of you for so long. How can you just say you don't remember?" She kept nagging, and I don't know what happened after I grew up, but the relationship between my brother and I became very tense. To avoid me, he even went abroad to take charge of a project. I was a little shocked. Before I could think more, I saw Lucas suddenly come in. He first greeted my parents, then looked at me intently. "Sophia, Emily was scared by you. Go apologize to them," he said so smugly that even I froze for a moment, unable to hold back my laughter. How could she ask me to apologize? If she hadn't suddenly taken the wheel from me, I wouldn't have been hurt. As soon as he finished speaking, Emily ran in, crying uncontrollably, and dropped to her knees in front of me. "Sophia, you were driving too fast, and I was really scared. All I could think about was for you to stop quickly. I never thought that you, who are aware of your good racing skills, would fail to control the steering wheel. If you want me to apologize, I'll apologize now." She bit her lower lip and looked so pitiful that Lucas immediately picked her up and left. The whole thing happened so fast that my mother didn't react for a while and almost lost her temper and went after them, but fortunately my father stopped her. 10 days later, Lucas suddenly sent a message saying, "Emily mentioned the other day to me, she feels she did something wrong and wants to invite you to the amusement park. The driver has already gone to your house to pick you up." He didn't give me a chance to refuse. Once we entered the amusement park, they took me straight to the haunted house. Lucas held Emily's hand tightly, his arm around her waist, as if he were protecting her. They were so close, and I was the only one walking behind them, watching this loving young couple. As we entered the depths of the haunted house, the two in front of us walked faster. Suddenly, a pair of hands covered my mouth and dragged me into a dark place. A frightening NPC with a hideous face grinned, taped my mouth shut, and then touched me at random in the dark. The surveillance light flashed. I struggled desperately, but the NPC held me down, my face pressed against the cold one-way glass. "Sophia, don't blame me, I'm just trying to make money solving other people's problems." On the other side of the glass, Lucas and Emily are embracing each other, kissing passionately, like lovers who haven't seen each other for years and are eager to merge with each other. The kiss ends. Lucas gently lifts Emily's face and kisses her forehead tenderly. Once the surveillance footage is in my hands, I'll be ready to give Sophia her birthday present. "Emily, you're the only one I've ever loved. Anyone who ever bullied you will face the consequences." On the day of my birthday party, Emily came to find me in the powder room. She pushed open the door to my dressing room and picked up a hairbrush to brush my hair. She brushed a little too hard, as if she wanted to shave my scalp off. "Sophia, you are so lucky to have invited so many important people to your birthday party in New York City." I was a little upset and pushed her hand away. Unexpectedly, Emily fell to the ground with a soft push as if she had no strength. Emily fell to her knees, covering her face and crying bitterly. Her crying became louder when she heard the sound of leather shoes approaching. She said, "Sophia, I already apologized for what happened last time. I just wanted to help you get ready. Why did you push me down?" Lucas finished speaking and slammed the door open. He kicked my chair over with all his strength and held Emily tightly in his arms. "Sophia, I know you've already remembered everything. Before, Emily's mother worked in your house, and you let bygones be bygones with the mother and daughter. Now that you know Emily is mine, you still dare to lay a hand on her." Lucas was very sure that I had already recovered my memory, and felt that the torment and humiliation I had suffered for a month would all erupt at this moment. Pulled me to him. "When you drove Emily's mother away, causing their reputation to become a mess and they could no longer find work, did you ever think that Sophia's private life as the family's only daughter would also become the subject of gossip among New Yorkers?" I quietly watched his distorted expression and guessed what he was going to do next, and tears flowed uncontrollably. "Lucas, are you really sure that it wasn't Emily and the others who made a mistake and got kicked out in the first place?" Lucas snorted without thinking. He said that Emily had always been gentle and well-behaved, and even if she made a mistake, she wouldn't be kicked out. I was a well-known rich girl in New York City, and he wasn't surprised that I had done something so selfish. Lucas asked me in a low voice, "How was it at the haunted house, Miss Sophia?" As soon as he finished speaking, there was a flurry of activity outside the door, and everyone was shouting about how the original art photos were not being shown on the big screen. Lucas grinned triumphantly and pulled me out the door. I tried to break free, but I asked him one last time, "Lucas, do you really want to risk our two families' 20-year relationship because of Emily?" Lucas paused for a moment, gripping my arm loosely. He just said that the question was no big deal, and then he led me to the big screen in the main hall. As soon as we appeared, all the guests' attention was immediately focused on us. Lucas gave a small smile and tilted his head to look at the big screen. However, what was playing on the big screen was not the video of him bullying me in the haunted house as he had imagined. Instead, it was a video of him and Emily embracing and kissing. Vicious words and thoughts of revenge kept popping up in Lucas' mouth. Many of the guests present had seen us grow up since we were young, and they could not believe that Lucas would do such a thing. The next second, Grandpa Lucas's cane hit Lucas's shin. How dare he bully Sophia too? Emily quickly threw herself into Lucas's arms, kneeling and crying, begging Grandpa to let him go. I quietly left the main hall and wiped away the tears in the corner of my eyes. "Lucas, you made me do this. We could have parted on good terms, but you had to make me look bad." I had just wiped away my tears and turned around when I ran into a sturdy chest. A tall man frowned and glanced at my reddened eyes. I thought he was a guest at the birthday party, so I casually apologized and left. The man lowered his head and tapped my forehead gently with his finger. He said, "You've only been away on business for a few years, how could you have forgotten me, and not even take the initiative to send a message to let me return for your birthday?" The man I bumped into skillfully handled the chaotic hall and began to let the guests leave the party. He shook hands and chatted with the rare bosses in New York City, and everyone agreed to hold another banquet and invite everyone next time. After dealing with the trivial matters, Alexander walked over to me again and pointed at Lucas and Emily with his chin raised. "What else do you want to do to them?" Lucas was beaten to the ground by his grandfather, which was really embarrassing, and Emily was also implicated, with red marks on her white dress. "I don't want to pay any more attention to the two of them." I was about to respond to Alexander's words when I suddenly noticed his face and looked at it for a few moments. Why did he look so much like Lucas? It wasn't until the family dinner that evening that I realized through my parents' conversation that Alexander was my brother who had grown up in my parents' home. I subconsciously picked up a dish and put it in Alexander's bowl. Instantly, the whole table fell silent, and my usually talkative father suddenly looked at me. I looked confusedly at the three people at the table, before I could ask what was going on. At that moment, the effect of the love potion suddenly wore off. The chopsticks in my hand fell to the ground, and I looked at Alexander in disbelief, only to find that he had calmly eaten the food I had put on his plate. It turned out that after drinking the love potion, I had forgotten the person I loved most. It was Alexander. Alexander was the child of my father's comrade in arms, and after losing all his family, he had been living in our family. Although he was not part of our family, my parents treated him like their successor. They kept reminding him of his responsibility as an older brother. I was always allowed to eat first, and I got to choose the toys I wanted to play with. So, Alexander didn't like me very much when he was little, but I liked him very much. I liked seeing him frown when I was being cute and begged him to play with me, but he still agreed to play house with me. I loved watching him discover that I had secretly gone go-karting and skydiving, and when he was worried about me and wanted to hit me, he ended up just rubbing my head. When I grew up, I confessed my love to Alexander. I never thought that the next day he would go abroad to work and never come back. The feeling of forgetting disappeared, and I remembered that at the beginning, I agreed to be with Lucas because he really looked a lot like Alexander. In the evening, Alexander put milk by my bedside and gave me a USB flash drive. The role of haunted house was actually taken care of by Lucas. Although you handled it well, I also made him disappear completely. When will you think for yourself? You have obviously been misunderstood by Lucas for so long, but you have never been willing to explain what Emily's mother did in the beginning. Alexander said he had a backup of the surveillance footage from the house and that if I agreed, he would release it immediately. Seeing Alexander after all these years, I could tell that he had matured a lot. I had been bullied for a month, and even suffered in the haunted house. All the grievances in my heart came pouring out. I threw my pillow at Alex and cried bitterly. "You don't like me, and what happened to me is none of your business." A few days later, Lucas, who had just recovered from his injuries, was brought by Alexander to my living room. Alexander pointed at the screen to help him see the surveillance footage from that time. Emily's mother felt that I was young and deliberately reduced my living expenses. She also secretly took the new dresses in my closet and gave them to Emily to wear, and gave her my nutritional supplements. She even wanted to let me give up my bedroom to Emily while my parents were away on business. I couldn't stand it anymore, and I fought with Emily by tugging at each other's hair. Alexander soon found out about this, and he took me in his arms and kicked Emily and her mother out of the house. Lucas stared at the blurry surveillance footage, then looked back at me, who was sitting on the sofa in a carefree manner, and suddenly shook his head. "You are Sophia's brother, so naturally you support her. I'm afraid you had this surveillance footage fabricated as well, right? Emily is a gentle person, and her mother is just a nanny. She was not especially loved as Sophia from a young age, so how could she possibly have done such a thing?" Lucas didn't quite trust what Alexander had said, so he left my house and went straight to Emily's. Downstairs, he met the doctor who had previously bandaged Emily's hand. The doctor was holding a thick red envelope and had a happy smile on his face, but he accidentally bumped into Lucas. Lucas was puzzled, and after some questioning, he learned that Emily had not been injured in my racing car last time. This was actually a trick she had planned with the doctor. Frowning, Lucas suddenly pushed open Emily's door. When Emily hung affectionately around his neck as usual, Lucas unexpectedly pushed her away. He had just seen the doctor come again. "Are you still hurt?" Emily froze for a moment, not looking directly at Lucas, hiding her arms behind her back. She whispered that it might be bad for her heart, and she felt a little pressure in her chest. Lucas closed his eyes. He suddenly remembered the surveillance camera footage he had just seen in my house, Emily's terrifying expression, the moment she snatched the doll out of my hands. I remember seeing photos of you as a child, wearing all the designer clothes of the day. Sophia's family must have paid your mother a good salary back then, right? Emily froze for a moment, looking up at him. She clutched her thighs tightly, tears welling up in her eyes. Looking pitifully nestled in his arms, she asked him why he had to ask her this, knowing full well that Sophia's family had only bullied them before. Lucas felt unbearable, and the gentle appearance he used to like the most had completely become insincere. He grabbed her shoulders and kept asking. Emily finally admitted with tears in her eyes that her mother had indeed given her my things. Sophia is inferior to me in every way, and her only advantage is her good luck. I just envy her relationship with you. I don't want to actually take her things. After learning the truth, Lucas pushed Emily away and saw her collapse at his feet in my dressing room, just like last time. There was no trace of compassion left in his heart. It seemed that he suddenly remembered the question I had asked him before. Did he really think that I had been bullying Emily? Lucas slammed on the accelerator and rushed towards the garage in the night rain. He didn't even apply the brakes when he saw Emily running out in the rearview mirror, chasing after his car and falling in the rain. He drove back to my house at full speed and knocked on the door hurriedly. The raindrops on his body dripped onto the ground, and he hurriedly looked towards the sofa where I usually sat. Auntie, where is Sophia? I want to talk to her. She's not here right now. She's gone abroad with Alexander to discuss a project. Alexander wants me to learn more about the company's business, so he's been taking me to various business summits to meet people who appear in business magazines. All that English is giving me a headache. While Alexander's not looking, I sneak off to the nearby motor racing club. I hear there's a hill race coming up soon, and I can't wait to take part. I changed into a tight racing suit and was greeted by several foreign students around me. Do you want to race? I invited them. The wind whistled in my ears as I gripped the steering wheel tightly and won the race by a landslide. Several young rich kids surrounded me. This is the first time I've seen a beautiful female racer so powerful. I wonder if I can leave my contact information and go racing together again next time, he said, and then the man mischievously hooked my lower back. I raised my eyebrows, and before I could say yes, he snatched my phone away from me. Sorry, she's not available right now. Alexander's face was serious as he grabbed my collar and dragged me away from the racetrack. I pushed his hand away a little resentfully and grabbed my phone back, telling him to leave me alone. Alexander frowned and grabbed my wrist. We're abroad now. Who's going to stop you? I bit his hand hard, forcing him to let go, and then I hurried into the changing room to change out of my racing suit. I understand. If it weren't for the pressure from my parents, Alexander wouldn't want to control me at all. When I was little, my parents were always busy, and sometimes Alexander wanted to go out and play with his friends, but I was always crying, so he had to stay home with me and play those boring house games. I happily played with my dolls, but I saw Alexander's unhappy face, sitting with his back to me on the carpet. Sophia, you're so old now that you don't need me to keep you company. Can you please make it easier for me? It may be childish, but ever since Alexander said that, I stopped looking for him to play with. When I got home, I deliberately acted cold towards Alexander, threw my backpack on the floor and went to take a shower, locking the door behind me. Little did I know that Alexander had opened my backpack, skillfully entered the password to unlock my phone, and deleted all the people I had added at the racetrack. Just as he was about to turn off the phone, he suddenly saw a message from Lucas. Sophia, I've figured out what happened between you and Emily. Before, I was really confused and thought you were hot-tempered and would bully her. After you left, I drank the kind of wine you gave me before, but I forgot it was you. Sophia, I love you. Alexander first glanced at the note I had given Lucas, which said Alexander too. He kept staring at the words forget-me-not. It just reminded me of the feeling I had when I looked at him at the birthday party that day, as if I were looking at a stranger. I couldn't help but wonder. When I came out of the shower, I happened to run into Alexander's thoughtful gaze. I frowned slightly, and my wet hair flitted into his face, as I asked him why he was looking at my phone. He didn't answer, but just silently held the hairdryer and carefully dried my hair. While applying the hair oil, Alexander's faint scent of pine wood made me feel very comfortable. Sophia, it turns out that you really like me. After that night, my relationship with Alexander became a little special. This also made me more actively involved in my work abroad. Until one day, Lucas came to me with a project and specified that he wanted to work with me. When I opened the door to the meeting room, before I could see his face, he embraced me tightly. During the months you were abroad, I drank the glass of forgetfulness. I forgot you, but I loved you, and it made me so confused. He kept apologizing, pouring out his true feelings. I pushed him away and angrily hit him with the documents in my hand. Lucas, I just feel sick when you say these things now. To be honest, I didn't forget you after drinking that glass of forgetfulness. I could always see clearly that you were spreading rumors about me behind my back for Emily's sake, and you even got the staff at the haunted house to bully me. How could you think that after all that I would forgive you? Lucas felt dizzy and his mind went blank. He muttered in disbelief. How could you forget me? Didn't you really only remember on your birthday? I smiled softly. I had switched the videos on the big screens myself in advance. People who are attracted to money may be attracted to even more benefits a second time. That's what my parents taught me since I was a child. I didn't want to stay with him any longer. I asked you twice, and you told me yourself that you love Emily the most. After that, I was ready to leave, but Lucas grabbed my shoulders hard. What makes you so much better than me? Haven't you always seen me as Alexander's substitute? He asked me if I had forgotten about Alexander. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Lucas closed his eyes in pain and repeatedly thought about what I had just said. He told me that the last time he called me, Alexander answered the phone. Alexander was not at all merciful with him and immediately laughed at him sarcastically when he heard that he wanted to find me. Do you really think Sophia likes you? At that time, Lucas didn't understand what this meant and kept waiting until now to hear it from me. The sound of the quarrel in the meeting room became louder and louder, attracting many colleagues to come and watch the fun. Soon after, Alexander's face turned pale as he pushed open the door and told his assistant to pick up the documents on the floor. His warm hand grasped mine, and I looked up at him as he stood in front of me, just as I had felt when I was a child being bullied. Lucas, if you don't want to cooperate, then don't waste everyone's time. Alexander walked me all the way back to his office and took out my favorite cookies from my childhood from the drawer and handed them to me. I ate bite after bite, trying to stay calm and prepare for the international conference. Sophia. Alexander called my name. I looked up and saw his bright smile. Sophia, the day after the confession I actually went abroad because I received an urgent confidential cooperation project, not to avoid you. Why didn't you even answer my phone calls afterwards? I thought you regretted liking me. Over the next year, Alexander took me around to familiarize me with the projects abroad. He wanted to help me improve a bit, and after that, he didn't interfere with anything that happened in the projects I was in charge of. As I was about to return to China, I saw news about Lucas in my circle of friends. It was said that Lucas's family found out that Emily's mother, who Lucas had hired as a nanny for 7 years, had stolen nearly 1 million yuan. Lucas's father was very angry and had Emily's mother sent directly to the police station. Emily was terrified and knelt in front of Lucas, crying, begging him to intercede with Lucas's father. Lucas was inside the door, surrounded by bottles. Hearing Emily's voice, he just coldly told someone to keep her kneeling outside. If she survived the 7 days and 7 nights of kneeling, he would go and help to say something nice. However, the next day, Emily fainted. After being sent to the hospital, everyone learned that Emily was pregnant. Lucas's father was very worried and wondered if he had really done such a thing, so he demanded to check the DNA of the fetus on the spot. It turned out that the father of the child was actually another young master among Lucas's friends. After discussing it with their parents, both sides immediately asked Emily to terminate the pregnancy. But for some reason, she died on the operating table. Just before Alexander and I were about to return to China, one of my assistants mentioned that there was a big business deal to be negotiated. When we met, I realized it was Lucas. He volunteered to take charge of the Lucas family's overseas projects and personally brought the project to me, leaving the decision up to me. Sophia, write down the specific data on the profit sharing. Lucas was holding the Lucas family's most profitable project abroad. I refused without hesitation. With a year of business experience under my belt, I felt that Lucas was not in a good position to be a partner. Sure enough, it wasn't long before Lucas, due to his lack of experience and his trust in others, lost the Lucas family's most profitable project to someone else. The Lucas family was in trouble and almost went bankrupt. The day Alexander and I returned home, we happened to meet Lucas's father, who had come to my house with Lucas to discuss a business partnership. Lucas's father looked several years older all of a sudden, and his back, which had always been straight, bowed in front of my parents. He hoped that because we had been neighbors for so long, he could help Lucas's family out for once. But my parents refused without hesitation. Lucas had previously hired someone from the underworld to deal with Sophia, and I had let it go because of old feelings. Now I had no reason to help you again. Lucas's father almost fell over, then kicked Lucas, making him kneel in front of me. He snatched the feather duster from my servant's hand and hit Lucas hard, until blood slowly appeared on his white shirt, but he still didn't stop. My parents were oblivious to what was going on around them and turned to go about their business. Eventually, Alexander noticed that Lucas was lying on the ground, motionless, after being beaten, and reached out to stop it, fearing that it would affect the feng shui if he died in Sophia's home. When Lucas woke up, he saw Alexander and I holding hands. He opened his mouth slightly, his face pale, and gave a self-deprecating smile. Congratulations, Sophia, you finally got what you wanted, I responded softly, looking up at Alexander and happily shaking our hands lightly. We had come back specifically to discuss the wedding date, and once it was set, we would send you the invitations. When Alexander and I walked hand in hand to our parents, my father took the belt from his waist and swung it at him. When I asked you to look after my daughter when she was little, I didn't mean as a potential partner. After saying this, I saw my father grab Alexander by the ear and pull him into the study, with me standing worriedly in front of him. Once the door was closed, my father threw away the belt and asked Alexander when exactly he had started to have inappropriate thoughts about me. Alexander slowly got down on his knees. Sophia was in junior high school. As soon as he finished speaking, my father raised the ashtray and threw it at his head, calling him a good-for-nothing. I can't believe you would think such a thing about her. She's so young. I taught you to treat Sophia like a sister since she was little. My father was breathing heavily with anger and tried to get the belt off the floor. My mother and I listened outside the door for a long time, feeling that the atmosphere was not right, so we pushed the door open immediately. We saw Alexander with blood running down his forehead, kneeling on the ground motionless, letting my father scold and beat him. When my father was about to raise the belt again, I immediately hugged Alexander tightly. Dad, if you want to hit me, just hit me. Since I was little, I have been pestering you. I just like you, my father grunted helplessly. Alexander gently pushed me away and looked at my parents seriously. Uncle and Aunt, I will accompany Sophia to understand all the business of the company and help her grow into a qualified successor. After that, if you still can't accept my relationship with Sophia, I'm willing to be disowned by her family. I quickly knelt down with him. If my brother is disowned by Sophia's family, I don't want to stay here anymore. I have always been pampered by my parents, and now they don't want me to suffer even a little. I won. 7 years later, with Alexander's support, I became the only female CEO in New York City. When I was able to take on responsibilities on my own, we had a grand wedding. Alexander silently supported me when I was pregnant and took care of my daily life as best he could. After our daughter was born, his care became taking care of both me and our daughter. Occasionally, someone would tease him, asking how he could give up the opportunity to inherit the Sophia family to take care of us. At first, my parents actually hoped that he would be properly cultivated. Alexander just smiled slightly at this, and rocked the little daughter in his arms. The Sophia family should belong to Sophia. Besides, Sophia will never let my daughter and I suffer. He gently teased his daughter with his finger, and the two of them laughed happily together. When he got off work in the evening, Alexander held his daughter in his arms while holding my hand, asking me what I wanted to eat that night. I was wearing a professional outfit, but not too formal, and bounced ahead of him, naming a bunch of dishes. Alexander ended up tapping me on the forehead. The people who had just asked Alexander questions with no good intentions were now standing there scratching their chins. Suddenly, I felt like what he said seemed to make a bit of sense.